Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. So going to be going over what I'm looking at in the market for the MJ sector, and part of that does have to do with the S&P 500 because there are certainly correlations that we need to be aware of for the longer term trends, and I'm going to be holding off any longer term entries if we do see bear breaks in the overall market, especially in the summer when we are not expecting significant news for the Canadian MJ sector, perhaps until, well, obviously individual company significant news can come out at any time. But in terms of politically, we're looking at June, which gives us the whole month of May to consolidate a bit, perhaps. And then we're heading after June, we're looking, into the fall at this point for doors actually opening. But all that aside, for me, the S&P 500 is in a long equilibrium pattern on the weekly time frame, and it's very similar to WEED, which we'll look at in just a minute. But high, low, lower, high, higher, low, lower, high, higher, low. And you can see we're getting to a range right now where we're likely going to see a break within 2 or 3 weeks at most. We have the FOMC. Google what the FOMC is if you are not familiar. It is a meeting with regards to monetary policy. That's Wednesday. So some catalysts that could cause this break sooner rather than later. But 260.85 key support, 271.30 key resistance. So about $11 range. And whichever direction we break from this equilibrium is going to shift my perspective on the overall market heading into the summer, which will, in return, shift my perspective on the Canadian MJ market. So here's MJ, the ETF here, and the weekly time frame is still in a downtrend of lower highs and lower lows. So we had our all-time high of the move since we were created. Low, lower high, and then we dropped down to a lower low. Now another lower high, and in order to change this trend, we have to be looking for a pullback, which we've certainly done the last couple of weeks. No red flags in terms of volume, no huge dump or anything like that. But we need a higher low on this weekly time frame, a bullish reversal candlestick, hopefully for the bulls this coming week, to form a higher low compared to 26.02 and 26.04, a little double bottom. And then we need to see the bulls turn around and break 30.37 to give us the higher low and higher high that changes the trend of this weekly momentum, which is certainly favoring the bears. In the past couple months, we've seen 2, 4, 7 weeks, one of them green. So that is 6 out of 7 weeks in the red, which is why I want to be all cash until things sort themselves out, until trends change. So the daily time frame for MJ, 2 weeks of straight red, more than 2 weeks, actually just about 2 weeks. So that is a lot of downside. We have not seen the bulls do anything to turn around this momentum, and the odds that we do form a higher low are very likely. It's just once that higher low forms, the question will be, can we break to a higher high, or are we going to stay stagnant within this range for another few weeks without a whole lot of volatility and trading opportunity? You can see the volume is dropping off every single day. I know we had the issues with the TSX on Friday, but we've been dropping off every single day for the last 6 days on this volume. So there is a summer lull associated with the MJ market as a whole. I know everybody's saying, this is not normal, and I can absolutely agree with that. Heading into this fall, it is not the normal situation, but I'm going to be prepared for it to perhaps be the normal situation of seeing a low volume, low activity summer, at least for another month. And that's a potential that I'm going to be prepared for. So I'm patiently waiting for entries. I am trading oversold bounces. I am trading bull breaks of equilibriums, which aren't that often. They're not occurring that often in this space right now. So very patient. I'm not trading the Canadian MJ space a whole lot. I'm waiting for things to get more clear to put the odds in my favor as a trader. So what we're looking at on MJ on the 4-hour time frame is a very clear lower high, lower low downtrend. Let me get rid of these extended hours. So just lower highs and lower lows, and you can see again the 4-hour time frame has 2 green candlesticks and a couple dozen red. So looking at the hourly chart, it's very clear where these lower highs are. Every time we see a bull move with an attempt to break resistance and we fail and we form just another lower high, these are all resistance points that I'm looking at on this chart. So the first level that has to break the lower highs is 28.39. If we bounce Monday, anything under 28.39 is just another lower high. We are close to getting oversold. We did see a bounce from oversold on this hourly time frame back on April 26th, But again, no follow through, no higher low and higher high, just continuous lower highs and lower lows. So this trend will change at some point, and that will shift momentum back to the bulls for at least a couple of days. That's what we're looking for the next trading opportunity for the bulls. WEED, let's start with the weekly chart because again, it looks very similar to the S&P 500. And now we're going to be looking at the all-time high, the low of consolidation, our lower high, higher low, and here's the range. Actually, we just got a new lower high. So here's the range that I'm watching. Right now, the range is 2388 support and 3146 resistance. That's a lot of trading range in there. That is about 20% worth. So we're right in the middle of this range right now, closed at the low of the week. Again, volume is not screaming bearish. So I would look for a higher low to form on WEED compared to 2388, but there's no indication of that happening yet as we are still closing week. It's very clear $27 is a must-hold level short term. If it breaks, we're going to drop down towards $26, $25 and still be looking for this higher low. But if the bulls can hold $27 and see a bull break of these multiple daily inside bars, and again, they're not exactly inside bars because we have broken support by 3 pennies or 2 pennies and then 3 pennies, that's not significant. So I'm calling that a triple bottom at 27, and I'm looking for a break of the lower high pattern. We've got 5 days in a row of lower highs. Bulls need to see a break of 27.49 first thing on Monday, and that will start to shift the momentum. Again, it's the same thing. Every single bounce attempt is just a lower high to be watching. And we'll get what our next resistance level is going to be, or our first resistance, I should say. So first resistance, 27.49, and then we're looking at 27.83. And the $27 mark is the must-hold level. If that drops, we will likely see some stops trigger, and we'll get down to oversold conditions on the hourly time frame pretty quickly. So flattening out bottom, all about breaking the lower highs on the hourly time frame. That's what I'm watching for on Monday. That's a potential entry opportunity. And if you do make that entry and want to keep a tight stop, you would put it under 27. Cron is the next big boy in terms of strength on the weekly time frame in the Canadian MJ sector, still in an equilibrium pattern, whereas ACB and APH are not. We'll look at those in a second, but high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high. Bulls trying to form a higher low compared to 663. They certainly have a lot of room to be able to do that. Very low bear volume. Cron's looking pretty good here on this equilibrium. It's favoring the bulls, in my opinion, at this point. And there are multiple times where I see Cron holding up better than the other major names in the sector. And then I look at the S&P 500 and I see the S&P 500 is up over 1% on the day. And that's happened multiple times over the past couple of weeks where, in my opinion, just making these observations, it seems to me like the correlation of Cron listed on the NASDAQ to the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ when they have bullish days helps Cron stay a little bit more bullish than these other names who do not have that kind of correlated exposure to the overall U.S. market directly with their dual listing of shares. And that's because they're not on the NASDAQ or NYSE yet. And I say yet because I fully expect it at some point. So Cron had a green day thrown in there, and that's a support level to be watching now, 856. We did not confirm this bullish reversal candlestick on Friday, but volume is just really low, and we're waiting for a shift. So the hourly time frame, let's see how it compares to the other names. So we already broke the lower highs. So looking at this, what this does to me is it shifts my opinion on what to expect on the other names. Because Cron already looked bullish, that's going to shift my opinion and say, I'm going to be looking for the other names to have a slight favor on a bull break because Cron already did. And again, in my opinion, with the S&P 500 strong Wednesday and Thursday, that was a reason that we saw a little bit more aggressive dip buying, and we broke the lower high pattern on Cron. So new resistance, 912, followed by 934, and the bulls are trying to form an hourly higher low and then see a break of 912 to get that momentum in their favor. So Cron and WEED are my favorite plays for the bulls in this space right now, and that's because of where we stand on the longer term trends. We look at APH on the weekly, let's start, and it's a very clear downtrend, lower highs and lower lows. So just like MJ, the ETF, we need to see a higher low on this weekly time frame compared to 890 and then a bull break of 1266 to change this trend, because this is a downtrend. We have now given back at the bottom of this pullback multiple months of upside on that crazy run that we had. So at this point, that all-time high, we have pulled back almost 60% from that level. So we're looking for the higher low, again, closing at the low of the week. The past 2 weeks does not favor the bulls in terms of turning things around just yet, but we're looking to hold 890 and form a higher low compared to that level. Daily time frame, lots of red, no sign of the bulls showing up, but we're getting very tight here. If we can see WEED get a bull break, we'll be looking for these other names to get a bull break. If you are looking at swing trade positions, the stop level to use would be down at 890 on APH. Let's go to the hourly time frame with those lower highs. Very, very clear and clearly have not broken yet. So lower high on every bounce attempt. Most recent one is 992, followed by 1013, the first resistance levels, with support at 978, and then a lack of support after 978 until down at 890. So that's what we're watching in the whole sector. There's just some different levels with these individual names. ACB on the weekly time frame is also a lower high and lower low pattern, but it is a lot more bullish looking. It's more of a flag. If we were to go to the monthly time frame, you could call that a bull flag. So that looks just fine on the monthly. Let's see APH comparatively on the monthly, and still healthy, still going to form a higher low, but not as much as ACB. You can see it's a more limited pullback. ACB, less bear volume. APH, a lot of bear volume. So APH is definitely the weakest out of the major four names in this space right now. But all you got to do is look to the monthly time frame on all of these names to breathe a sigh of relief if you are long. So monthly time frame for WEED, extremely strong. Everybody's strong on the monthly. And we're anticipating ACB and APH to form a higher low on the monthly sooner rather than later after seeing this kind of pullback, which is very healthy after the insane bull move with RSI levels on the monthly up in the upper 80s. Healthy consolidation overall. And you can see that RSI cooling off all the way down into the 50s now. So sufficient consolidation. So the daily chart for APH, lots of red. Actually, we did APH, we're on ACB. Daily chart for ACB, so pulling back, a couple of green days thrown in there, but it's really the hourly time frame that we're interested in short term. Clear lower highs and lower lows, just like everybody else except for Cron. And the most recent one, I'm looking at 778 and then 804 as two levels with support. I'm looking at 760 and 756 if those levels were to break. The next level, again, we're looking down at 675. So the bulls need to turn things around to form a higher low on the weekly time frame for ACB and APH and MJ. So I can almost group these into two groups. MJ, ACB, and APH are all lower highs and lower lows on the weekly, needing to form a higher low on the weekly, ideally this week with a bullish reversal candlestick, which I'm going to be looking for, and I'm going to be looking to make a bullish entry early, but I have to see a change in the hourly trend. And then the other two are WEED and Cron, which are in an equilibrium on the weekly. They are stronger than the other names, and they are also looking for shifts in the daily trend for the bulls to show back up. IIPR I covered in a recent video. This is not a name you want to day trade. There's not a lot of volume. I mean, by the end of the day, we get millions of dollars, nothing compared to these major Canadian names. But I'm interested in IIPR as one of the legitimate plays on the NYSE for the US MJ sector. We're starting to see the shift federally. We're seeing Sessions recently come out and say, maybe there is some medical benefit to marijuana, like a clown. And we're seeing states, Michigan's going to be voting on it this year. I assume they're going to be passing it. So there are bullish developments going on in the U.S. that wants me to have a piece in a longer-term position. And the fact that we have 25-cent dividends 4 times a year on IIPR, also a reason to be going long. So like I said, I have a long position. I day trade it. Or I don't day trade it. I swing trade it with some other smaller positions, but I do have a long retirement account position on IIPR. And I am looking towards that new all-time high. And we topped out recently. I'm looking for the potential of an equilibrium pattern on the daily. And we got resistance at 3610. And I've got support down at 3111. New resistance 3495. And we'll see if we form a higher low compared to 3111 and continue to tighten up this daily pattern. Weekly chart is a potential cup and handle. All-time high, perfect consolidation, inability to break that all-time high, and now a potential consolidation on this handle. Earnings are in 10 days, 9 days perhaps. Got to double check that, but it's not this coming week, it's the following week. But again, there's enough risk to reward here that favors reward on potential blue sky breakout, because again, last time we got the blue sky breakout, we ran up over 60% in just a few weeks. So I do like the explosive nature of this low share structure name with less liquidity, because when the liquidity pressure, the buying pressure favors the bulls, we move the price a lot. It can happen in the other direction, but we're going to have to see some bad news in order for a ton of bear volume to be piling on, in my opinion. Also a weekly inside bar to be watching this coming week. So that's where we stand. That's a nice overview in terms of everything that I'm looking at on the Canadian MJ sector. Still need trends to change on the weekly time frame for a bunch of names, watching the weekly equilibrium patterns for the other sector leaders, and hourly lower highs, very clear on a lot of names to be watching Monday. I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see you soon.